All right, y'all, we're back with another video. So today we are going to be talking about the strongest Gojo. We are going to be talking about what skill priorities you want to level up, synergies, memories, what his roles are, what he can do, and his evaluation within the community and the wiki, and of course myself, right? Because I have played with these characters for practically the past year, so I'm quite familiar with what these characters can do. So yeah, let's get right into it and talk about the characters. So first off, the strongest Gojo is an SSR blue character, and he is an attacker and defender. You may be asking me, why is he an attacker and a defender in one character? Well, most characters obviously are of just one role, but because how he works and his gimmick, he's essentially both. So he has a passive, and his passive is Limitless Technique. What it enables is at the start of battle, grants attack immunity to self. So essentially you cannot get damaged. He dodges everything. Literally can't get CC, can't get status ailments, can't nothing at all. The only thing that could really touch him is domains. Although they're very rare case scenario domains and extremely situational, so I myself don't consider it a drawback whatsoever. Now his other passive skill to actually balance the character is at the start of battle, grants urgent business status to self. And what urgent business status does is after it expires, which is 7 turn duration, he will leave the field. So basically after 7 turns he will just leave. That is his drawback. He will eventually just leave your team, which counts as a character, you know, dying. But regardless of that, he is still very powerful. Like I said, him being an attacker and defender, he can attack, he can dodge everything. If you even put a specific memory on him, you can like just have enemies be taunted towards you and they'll just start all attacking him and he will practically dodge everything. There's a bunch of ways to actually utilize the character, whether you're trying to go for damage or if you're trying to stall. So next up, let's take a look at the skills. So within the skills, the skill priority will be in this order. This is what I believe is the most beneficial to you in the game, and going from starting in the beginning and going forward, at least until you reach end game. Yeah, let's get right into it. So we have the first skill. So the first skill is take a look. Remember, we're going left to right, so take a look. This deals 457.7% Jujutsu damage to an enemy. This is a single target skill. It doesn't have anything unique about it aside for the fact that it has high modifiers, so it does a lot of damage for just a standard skill. Very powerful. I would definitely recommend it over the other skills, just because especially when you're starting out in the beginning of the game, you are going to be using your skill 1 very often. You're not going to really be doing the nuke strats just yet. Only when you're doing like very tough stages you will be doing the nuke strats, which are mainly end game, and by then you'll be able to upgrade your ultimate, which will be the next one in the skill priority list. Right, so take a look definitely first. Now let's talk about his ultimate. That is going to be the second skill that you're going to want to level up. It is his ultimate curse technique reversal red. This deals 1048.8% Jujutsu damage to all enemies. So it's an AoE nuke. I do want to point out though that these skills that I'm talking about, I am rating them at level 10, right? Even though it does say level 1 on screen, we are talking about at their level 10, at what they can do at their ceiling, right? So this is exactly what you're going to be aiming for anyways when you're you know, skill prioritizing. You want to get them to level 10, so definitely this skill you're going to want at level 10 as well. This does have very high priority, well, second highest priority from all his skills, because you're going to be using him to essentially nuke the last stage before he actually just disappears. So next up we have his third skill. Now his third skill, and this is his third priority out of all his skills, is it's getting fun, which is a buff for the character. If you have it at max, it increases own damage by 124% for 3 turns. It will be 75% at level 1, which is still pretty high. That's why I don't think you need to level it up just yet. It's fun in the third positioning of priority because like it still has a decent amount of buff bonus. It's literally 75%, and then, you know, obviously leveling it all the way to 10 will give you roughly about another 50-ish%. So it's still very powerful at level 1, and it's very powerful at level 10 regardless. So you don't need to prioritize it just yet. It can definitely be used prioritized a lot later, because you can still get by with a 75% damage increase from that buff. So yeah, you're definitely going to be using this skill very often, especially when you're going into the nukes. You're definitely going to be wanting to use your skill, take a look a few times, and then you'll probably get to the boss stage, you'll use It's Getting Fun, which is your buff skill, and then from there on you will use your ultimate curse technique reversal red to just nuke the stage. That's usually how it goes. Yeah, but since you have good modifiers on your third skill, you're essentially not going to be leveling up too much because it's already good modifier even at level 1. Next up, you have his fourth choice, and that is going to be his skill 2, which is, I'm going to show off a little. This skill, I'm not going to lie, you're rarely ever going to use this skill. Not only does it cost 1 cursed energy, a whole whopping 1 cursed energy, it deals significantly less damage than Take a Look. Significantly less. There's literally no reason to use it. You will never be using this skill whatsoever. That's why it's last priority. I would even say just keep it level 1 forever. You literally do not need this skill. Just his normal basic attack that costs no energy, his skill 1, Take a Look, does more damage than it at every single level. There's no reason to use this at all. Don't even bother upgrading it. I wouldn't even do that. Just don't even. Just leave it there. That's why it's last in the priority. Right, so next up we have our synergies. This is basically who he's going to pair very well with in the game. So first up we have Yaga and Nanami, right? So as you can see, there's a little box right under him. That's what that means, is both of the characters together. These characters are phenomenal units that every character at endgame, especially on the JP side, are using, and you will be using on the global side as well. If you don't know what Yaga does, he essentially is a buffer character that increases all taijutsu damage and jujutsu damage by 45% for 4 turns. So he is a very good buffer for literally any of the 2 damage types. He's very powerful. 4 turns. On top of that, he can stack these buffs for those 4 turns. So like you can just continuously keep spamming it throughout those 4 turns, and you'll have a big modifier increase for your entire team that you enable the nuke strat. And the nuke strat is where you just spam Yaga's buffs and then just the enemy stage. You're going to do a ton of damage in 1 single hit. He's definitely an OP character. You're going to use him for a long time coming with Gojo. So that's definitely why he's going to be very good paired up with Gojo. Now, of course, the other character that I also have paired up with, you know, Yaga and Gojo is going to be Nanami. If you aren't familiar with what Nanami does, Nanami is essentially another Yaga. He increases all allies damage by 34%, not jujutsu damage, not taijutsu damage or any of that stuff. He increases all allies damage by 34% for 4 turns, except himself, right? Because he also increases his own damage by 45% for 4 turns. So this whole buff is for 4 turns from Nanami as well. And once you have Yaga and Nanami both together increasing taijutsu and jujutsu damage, and then Nanami increasing all allies damage, and you're able to stack them, you are going to basically make this powerful nuke from your Gojo, who's just going to absolutely obliterate everything with just his ult, doing 1000% modifier to all the enemies, on top of all the buffs that he has active, on top of Gojo's own buff that he provides for himself. It's literally what you're going to be doing at endgame, nuking stages and, you know, trying to tiptoe around enemy gimmicks and all that good stuff, right? So these 2 characters definitely synergize well with him, and you're going to be using them for a lot of comps, not only for Gojo, but anybody else who's a carry. You're going to be using Yaga and Nanami together as well. Do keep in mind, the Nanami that I was talking about is strictly the SR version Nanami, because we are just about to get into the SSR version of Nanami. All right, so next up we have the SSR version of Nanami. Now, they have some synergy in a sense where if you kind of think about their passive skills. So Gojo, after 7 turns, he would leave the battle, right? But then Nanami, what this SSR Nanami does is after the 9th turn, he will recover his own cursed energy by 30, fill his own ultimate skill gauge by 200, and increase his own jujutsu damage by 30%. 1 time only, right? But then you're basically going to have all this damage that you're going to be able to dish out with Nanami. So you want to put him in your back slot, so that way once your Gojo dies and then your Nanami comes out, when you pass that 9th turn, so you only have to deal with 1 turn without his buffs. Once you get that 9th turn, his overtime will proc, and you will have another DPS character to back up your Gojo when he leaves. Very powerful. It has some synergy. It's not the craziest synergy, but they kind of work off of each other, where once Gojo leaves the battle and then Nanami comes in, you're going to get that overtime bonus, and you're going to be dealing a lot of damage with him as well. considering you aren't building any ultimate gauge, but since overtime work will proc, you will start getting some ultimate skill gauge and boosting your damage, and you'll get cursed energy straight off the bat as well, so you'll be able to actually do something with him when he enters. So they definitely have a little bit of synergy, not the craziest synergy of all time. You'll use it sometimes, but not all the time. It's very rare occasion, but they still work very well together, and you can use them together. I definitely love this character, and I use them a lot, especially on the JP release. But obviously getting the quota for the 9 turns in is very difficult to do, and you will only really use it on very difficult hard content, where you will probably put him in the 5th slot after Gojo, so that way when Gojo leaves, he'll come in. All right, so next up we have Todo. So Todo is a very unique kind of character, right? And how he actually kind of functions with Gojo isn't bad at all. So if you don't know, what Todo has is, the ability Boogie. And what you do is you pair him with Gojo. And since Gojo is unable to get hit, you won't take any damage. So you use Gojo with a memory that taunts enemies. And then you use Todo, and whoever is behind Todo, whenever they get attacked, he will counter them, and then he'll be able to inflict the confusion status on the enemy, right, for 3 turns, and that's a 70% chance. So using Gojo and utilizing the fact that he can dodge all damage, and then using a taunt memory, so that way you can get the attention of all the enemies and they're all attacking him, and then you have Todo to counter the enemies, because that ally that's behind him is getting targeted, which will be Gojo. He will counter them, you'll do even more damage. So it's a counter attack strat with tank Gojo. So that's why they have really good synergy as well. Not bad at all. They can do really good damage if you have them both together. If you're using tank Gojo rather than using the nuke strat, if you're just using a stall out strat and you want to do like some quick stages and stuff like that, you can put Todo in front of Gojo, put Gojo with a taunt memory, and then you're good to go, or recollection, whatever you feel like calling it. Next up, we have the rare Inumaki. So if you aren't familiar with this character, it has been literally meta since the beginning of the JP side. If you don't know what he does, he is essentially a ultimate skill gauge regen. He's just a battery, right? I'll tell you exactly what he does. So his second skill, Inumaki's second skill, is Protect, and it decreases all allies damage received by 43% for 2 turns. On top of that, he can fill all allies' ultimate skill gauge by 213. He is regenning and providing survivability for your entire team throughout that entire fight. You pair him up with Gojo, a person who has to leave after 7 turns, you're going to be able to get your ultimate off a few times before you even manage to leave the battle. So that's why he's definitely a powerful character. On top of that, his skill 3 also does allow him to stun, so you can get some flexibility out of the Inumaki. But yeah, Inumaki being able to fill the ultimate skill gauge of your Gojo, allowing him to use multiple ults before he actually leaves the battle, makes him a very, 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 very good unit for not only for Gojo, but for a lot of attack carries. A lot of nuke strats are going to be like that. You're going to be using either Inumaki or Yuki, and then Yaga and Nanami with your carry. That's usually going to be most of the team, and he's going to be enabling your damage, your overall damage output, like a ton. So Inumaki, definitely an amazing character. Right, so next up we're going to be talking about the memories. What are good memories for Gojo? Well, Gojo has his own memory, Hollow Purple, right? This memory is very powerful for him. It gives him 80% Jujutsu damage increase when he activates his ultimate skill. So you can activate this memory when you're using your ultimate skill, and once you ultimate skill and use that, you're literally going to nuke everything. So again, this is going to be used a lot for him on your nuke strats. It just gives him a ton of damage in that one single attack. It's very powerful. On top of that, if you do manage to get a dupe in it, it does have a passive effect where at the start of each wave, you'll fill your own ultimate skill gauge by 200. If you have that paired up with an Inumaki on your team, you're going to be able to get casually so many ults out like nothing. You'll be just constantly ulting the enemies before you even leave the fight. So this is definitely going to be his best memory overall in terms of just doing damage. Now let's actually talk about the other memory that you can see listed below it, which is the Jogo memory. So this memory is just like Hollow Purple. This is just another option to do damage. This will increase your Jujutsu damage by 55%, and it's when you activate your command skill or your ultimate skill, and it has a cooldown of 5 turns. So you can roughly use it 2 times at least throughout the fight, and it gives you a decent amount of damage. Even if you don't have the hollow purple Gojo memory, you can be using this one. I do want to indicate though that when I mean memory, I do mean recollection, because it is different translation on the JP side, so you know, still getting used to it. So yeah, essentially this is just another option to do damage with, right, if you don't have the hollow purple Gojo. And then I mean, the passive effect, you don't really need too much, because for him personally, it isn't going to activate because he has to be below 50% HP, and considering he's not going to get damaged, it won't proc. So this is just a secondary option. If you have hollow purple Gojo, you want to be using that one, but using Jogo, if you don't have it, is completely fine. You can actually use the memory skill rather than the passive effect. You can still utilize it at least. Next up, we have this memory right here. This is going to be memories in the corner, and this is going to be what enables your tank Gojo strats with your taunting, and if you're going to be using Todo as well to get more damage off. When you activate with a command skill, which is any of your skills, this will apply taunt for 2 turns. So this can be activated with your skills, not your ultimate, with your skills. So you will apply taunt. This is the taunt memory. You're going to be using that memory if you're trying to play more of a safe side, where you're trying to tank everything with Gojo, because if the enemy does too much damage, or if you're trying to use Todo to do counter attacks, that's definitely going to be what you're putting at it. And then on top of that, if you do manage to get a dupe in the memory, it does have a passive effect where if the equipped character lands a crit, they will reduce damage taken by all allies by 12%. So this gives your team more survivability. It's very nice overall, especially if you do get a character in the future who is more bruiser-esque and has high crit, then you'll be able to reduce damage as well for your team. That will be very good. Hopefully we do manage to get that, but we'll see. But yeah, that's going to be the next memory that synergizes very good with him. If you're trying to run the tank Gojo strat, you can definitely do that. So next up, we'll have this third memory here. The third memory is strong lineup, and this one is another kind of taunt tank Gojo memory that you would be using, because obviously we've already went through 2 memories that you can use for dealing damage, and then now we're going over the 2 memories that you can use for taunting and reducing damage. So strong lineup activates with your skills, applies taunt for 2 hits, and reduces damage received by 20%. Let's continue on with the final memory that we have here. So the final memory we have here is Live a Long Life, and you definitely can use this for Gojo if you don't have any other options. So when you use a command skill or ultimate skill, so this is any of your skills or your ultimate skill, you will fill your own ultimate skill gauge by 250. The cooldown is 3 turns, and then you sacrifice 15% of your own HP. Considering the fact that Gojo can't really get hit, it doesn't matter if you sacrifice HP. On top of that, the effect of it does not allow you to die from sacrificing HP, so you could just keep using it even when you start to get really low. It won't have any effect on you. You can't die from it, so you will be able to continuously keep filling your ultimate skill gauge. You can use it at least 2 times within the fight before he leaves, so it has a nice cooldown for him. It gives him exactly what he wants, ultimate skill gauge. He's definitely going to be utilizing this very well, especially early on. So if you're in the beginning of the game and you don't have hollow purple Gojo memory, or if you don't have Jogo's memory yet, then you can be using this SR memory. This SR memory will be a very good alternative memory to use, because it will fill up his ultimate skill gauge. Very nice. On top of that, if you do limit break it, which should be very, very easy because it is an SR, so you will be able to get it multiple times. When the character leaves the field, recovers all allies HP by 10%, recovers all allies curse energy by 10, and increases all allies damage dealt by 10%. As you can see, very good. It synergizes very well with his kit overall, providing him ultimate skill gauge like he needs, him sacrificing HP even though he doesn't really get hit by anything, so it doesn't matter. He can't die from sacrificing HP, so you don't have to worry about that. When he leaves the field, which he inevitably will once he hits 7 turns, he will recover all HP for, you know, all allies, their cursed energy by 10, and increases all their damage though. So overall, it has complete dominant synergy with him, bro. Like, it is one of the best SR memories to be using with him. There's no way that you're not using this if you do not have any of these memories, right? But yeah, as you can see, this character is absolutely powerful, has a lot of things in his kit that make him, you know, very powerful, and he doesn't really have that many drawbacks, and you have ways to actually compensate his drawbacks. This character, you use them in so much, like, you don't even know. Like, every piece of hard content that you have, you will be using this character. You're going to be using him with Yaga and Nanami doing the hardest difficulties, doing absolute nukes. You can do the craziest setups with, you know, having the hollow purple Gojo memory with these two characters. Oh my god, the damage is crazy. You're gonna be using him in end game, just nuking like all sorts of things. Tower. I don't know if the global version is gonna have tower just yet, but on the JP side we have a tower mode, and you do that, and it does a ton. He helps so much there, considering he can't get hit, and enemies do so much damage there. He could work end game, early game, everywhere. He's super flexible. You don't have any issues with him. He's a really good carry. You don't have to worry about him dying aside from leaving 7 turns. He's super powerful, just does everything. You just can't really go wrong with this character. That's why I think it's a good evaluation to be at SS from me, the community, and from, of course, the wiki. Definitely SS for sure. Just like, you just can't go wrong with him. He's very straightforward, does a lot of damage, does take like no damage and like the drawback isn't even that bad. It's only after 7 turns, but since he's such a giga unit, you just destroy everything within 7 turns. It's just like, what, there is no issue here. He's just powerful, just nuking everything. That is literally all you're going to be doing in endgame with this guy, is just nuking, buffing him like crazy, and just nuke the damn stage. That's literally the strongest Gojo for you. But I mean, who could have expected otherwise? This is Gojo we're talking about. Of course he's nuking everything. But yeah, anyways, that's basically going to be the Gojo, you know, guide. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.